Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Chris Hearn, founder, CEO of Fountainhead. Interesting news he's going to talk about in terms of 504 refinance. We've been waiting for that. Katie, how long have we been waiting for that notice?
Oh gosh, it's been since December now because it was part of that bill that passed in December. So it's really nice. I even forgot about it, to be honest, until they issued the notice this morning.
Hey, there's Lance. I know Lance was having issues. Well, no wonder you have issues. You have sand in your computer here, Lance.
Yes.
He sort of looks like the Invisible Man. He's kind of partly invisible, partly not. He's changing right now.
We're still working on our technologies. So, hey, we've got a ton of questions. Well, we're going to address some of those. The rest are up on the answer desk. And let's go with our first question. We wanted a couple of people have asked us this. Have you received your February 11-12 payments from Treasury? And probably we should have modified this, Joseph. We probably should have said, have you received all of it? Wow, 20% say no. Lance, what say you?
Well, my understanding is 11-12 payments are running behind. I've heard this throughout the country that they have not received the 11-12 payments. Normally, they would have came in about 10 or 12 days ago. So those should be coming soon. And part of it was because of the changes that they announced on February 16th and the number of payments that would be received. So with change causes delay in receipt of those payments.
This is follow up on the poll question we asked the other day. We wanted to go through, people are still confused about the 11-12. Katie, don't go through the entire chart, but what we've done is we have put together something, or you put it together, I'll give you credit where it's due, and the dates. So is there anything, this is pretty comprehensive. Katie, is there anything we're missing on that, or is that pretty well summarized where we are today?
It's pretty good. I did have somebody before the show remind me that the last one between March 27th and September 27th should have another section right there that says if it's before that September 27th, it's 6 months of first round, but both of them are no second round, unfortunately. Other than that, it is, I know, a very frustrating change, and a lot of people are complaining about it, but I do think the SBA's guidance and their way they formatted their flow chart to help you figure out how many payments you're getting is probably just as helpful if you're still confused by that.
Chris and Lance, are your borrowers having issues with this, or are they just pretty well rolling with the punches?
Well, one of the problems, Bob, is SBA sent a letter out to borrowers prior to changing the rules. So nice. A lot of the communication I'm getting is borrowers received a letter that said one thing, and now they're being told something different.
Yeah, that caused some confusion last week for us as well. So
that's a politically correct statement. Very good, Chris. Something tells me there's more behind that statement, and I'm not going to go there.
I think when you read the copy of the letter that SBA sent out, it wasn't like, it's kind of like a lot of banks issue a term sheet and not a commitment letter.
Yeah,
and that's the kind of letter that it was, but still, as a borrower, you pick it up and you look and say, hey, great, I'm going to get 8 payments, and then you wake up and you're getting 5.
Yeah,
but
you're not reading the asterisk on that. Big news, Chris. I'll let you talk about it. How I know you are active in 504. How big is this change?
Well, it's a big change insofar as being able to use some of the proceeds now for operating expenses, for working capital, which has really never been done before for 504. So that's, to me, it's the biggest change. I mean, we were talking before we jumped on camera that, third-party loans can always be refinanced. It just was subject to the CDC agreeing to subordinate to the new lender on the first position. This is still the same situation. It's just now you're actually going to be able to go up to the 90% value on the property and use some of those proceeds for working capital purposes, which is pretty big.
I assume in reading the notice, it said that the CDC is on the hook. If there's issues, so the CDC is going to have to devise or monitor carefully those disbursements. How extensive is that paperwork going to be, Chris?
I think knowing SBA disbursement policies, I think it's going to be pretty extensive. I think you're going to have to absolutely identify exactly what you plan to use the money for. You're going to have to provide purchase orders or invoices and canceled checks, and I mean the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Yeah, Lance, we're not going to. We're ringing the bell here. Do not dump it all into the account and call it working capital. Correct, Lance?
Yeah. That's probably not a wise choice.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Very good. How significant is this going to be for the industry and for the borrowers? Chris, I'll go with you first.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it remains to be seen. I mean, I was talking with John Riasti the other day from American Banker, and he was asking me about some of these figures, and I think you guys may have even spoken to him recently about this. And he said, 7A is kind of flat, if not down a little bit. Obviously, PPP is back on again. 504 has been ahead of schedule here for the last, say, year and a half, predominantly because of the rates being as low as they are. What's this going to do? And I said, I'm not really sure, because there's only so much throughput you can have in this industry. It's not like we can just magically go out and create another 100,000 SBA experts overnight. I mean, there's only so much that we can all do as an industry. So I'm sure there's going to be some demand from borrowers for this. Whether we can process these things quickly or whether SBA can. Frankly, 504 authorizations have been very, very slow over the last couple months, sometimes taking as much as a month to even get through, Sacramento. So we'll see, Bob. I don't know. I think once we get past PPP, we'll know a lot more. And that's why I'm not necessarily advocating for PPP to get extended to the end of the fiscal year, the end of the calendar year, because I think that's going to continue to muddy the water some. I think an extension of time, maybe to the end of the second quarter, would be appropriate, but then give ourselves another quarter or more to really work on some of the regular SBA programs. I think that would.
Chris, you mentioned muddy the waters. Lance, lenders are trying to go online, trying to streamline, try to make things as low touch as possible. It sounds like not only are lenders are being overwhelmed, but what about the poor borrower with all the choices that they have to choose from? How are you handling that as a banker?
Well, we try to sit down and review the project and come up with the best possible structure, the best possible SBA product for that borrower, given the rules that we have in place. The challenge for a lot of SBA lenders is those rules change frequently. But it is confusing to the borrower. There's really not any additional documentation requirements that have occurred as a result of the changes, but knowing the right product to put the borrower in takes a good, skilled SBA professional.
Yeah, very much so. Well, very good. So we'll talk about that. By the way, I did pull it. The notice is attached to this, and I did pull that has to be season loan. Definition of a season loan is basically payments have to be made for 12 months, 18 months. There's no delinquencies. There's other factors in there, but the season loan means 18 months after the initial disbursement with no delinquencies. I think there's a clause in there. If they are delinquent and they can have a track record of 12 months, then they're okay. So that's for that. Let's see. Is your lending institution planning on doing this? I thought it'd be a little bit higher.
Well, it's a great product for your customer and a great product for the financial institution. I mean, when you're in first position with half of the loan amount and you're in a first mortgage position on the property, it's difficult to lose on that kind of project. So there are a lot of reasons and the 504 is a way to keep customers. I think banks should use it as a tool. You may have a customer that has existing financing in your institution at a rate they're not happy with, and maybe they're shopping it. And you can put together a 504 refi for them and give them a lower blended rate. It's a great tool every institution has.
Chris, I'm going to ask the question. You can dance around it, but you know where I'm going with secondary markets, 7(a) premiums. The lender's looking at 18-19% premium on a full refinance versus a lot less on going 504, where the 504 may be a better transaction at a fixed rate. What do you do?
What do you do?
This is where I expect Chris to turn off the. I guess what I'm saying. I'll answer it for you, Chris. I'm not going to put you on the spot. But that is a consideration. I know that is something that Congress looks into, and I think when you're faced with that, be prudent. And if you're just be prudent in terms of what is better for the borrower. How's that, Chris?
No, that's fine. I think the problem still exists that borrowers don't know enough about
right.
So sometimes
yeah,
very forthcoming on it. So yeah.
Katie, you've been awfully silent. What's going on with notice of changes to Schedule C and what? Now we can have an increase. What's going on?
Yeah, so we were still kind of guessing on this. We really didn't have a lot of guidance yet. The SBA is going to be issuing, hopefully later this week, a IFR that's going to give us more details, as well as a new form for these particular filers. However, what we do know now is the SBA has given advance notice that the loans will not be able to be increased to take advantage of that new definition unless you haven't already filed that 1502 report. Clear up until then, you're going to be able to pull that file and resubmit using the new form and the new definitions. But until then, or after that point, you cannot make an increase. So you won't be able to take advantage of the new definition.
I'm not so sure this is going to hold because I think this causes a lot of chaos to the lending community. It's going to cause a lot of confusion to borrowers. There will be borrowers who, if given the choice, are going to say, no, I want to get my $5,000 PPP first draw loan, and I don't want to risk maybe getting it increased later on. And I also don't want to just be set aside and wait for the new form and the new calculation to come out whenever SBA is going to come out with it. And then you're going to have other borrowers who are going to say, you know what? No, I want. They're going to take them. They're going to take the money, and then they're going to come back, and they're going to put a lot of pressure on the lending community and obviously SBA to make sure that they increase these loans over time. And so I think there's going to be a second act here. I think there's going to be more coming in the future in the next few weeks. That's
well. I hope so. I hope so. And one of the things I'm just confused about, Lance, is that it says the loan cannot be canceled. I mean that. What is that all about?
Once you file the 15, yeah.
Well, the loan could be canceled, Bob, but when you put it back in, you get a hold code that you couldn't get past.
Right.
They need to fix this, and Chris is exactly right. The Schedule C filers probably are talking to their accountants who are saying, oh, there's this new change, and you're going to be able to get more money from the PPP program, and most of those CPAs probably do not read the IFRs, and most of the borrowers are not aware of the particular rules. So I'm going to be surprised if we don't have people that did the original round of PPP who come back and ask for an increase to that loan based on the new rules. We'll probably see some of that as well.
Yeah.
Kathy, yes.
What's also happening is you've got from originations now. Since this morning, I can only speak for us, but we basically said, you know what? We don't know when they're going to come out with this. They've said it's going to be this week. We don't really want to create a bigger problem for ourselves, so maybe we only process self-employeds who are seeking a loan amount of $15,000 or more, because that's close enough to the maximum $20,833 that maybe they won't come back and want to increase for a couple $1,000. But who knows? They could, they might. But for the smaller ones, we're just setting them aside. So this is going to cause further lulls in terms of the processing, the approvals, until they finally get this reg out, which is why so many of us were trying to push them last week. Hey, if you're going to do the 2-week exclusive period, also make sure that you have this coming out at the same time so that you don't lose time. Because right now you've lost tomorrow will be a week that you've lost for these self-employeds because they haven't been able to take advantage of the new calculation.
Chris, real quick, we did a blast on a letter that you were involved with urging PPP extension through, June 30th?
June 30th, yeah.
What's the status of that, and do you think that's going to help?
I think it'll help just because there's just so many changes that have occurred over the last month or so. You also, a lot of us are still reeling in the lending community from the hold codes, some of which are easy to fix, some of which are not, some of which are told that they're easy to fix in terms of the certifications, and then when we go to certify that also causes other problems. So, it's just, I think, as I've always said, there was the best of intentions here from all sides, and it's just not been executed very well. And so barring pissing a lot more people off, I think there really isn't any other choice other than for Congress to authorize some sort of an extension to this. I'm not suggesting, again, to the end of the fiscal year or the end of the calendar year, but at least another 90 days.
Well, the money's there. The money's there.
The money's going to be there. It's obvious. We're not even a halfway point, and you've got you're going to be 1 week into the 2-week window, and for the small businesses, so we're not even going to probably be at the halfway point by March 10th.
Well, thank you for including our audience in that. When these come in the future, this has been closed off, but it was very simple. Katie, all they had to do was simply go in and put their name, the bank, if they had the bank, but they could have done it. Borrowers could do it in their email, and that was it. Just said, yeah, I support what's going on. So I think there'll be a lot of advocacy for doing this week and next week, and we'll see what happens. I think it'll be the right thing to do. It just hasn't been enough time for borrowers in the lending community to adapt to all these changes and to really make decisions based on that. Yeah, there's two types of things you can do with Congress. One is this: attach your name to a letter that's being signed by a number of trade organizations, et cetera. And of course, we've always talked about the individual letter and how this impacts the district. So don't sacrifice one. And I know we talk about this, and I know it's very difficult to be motivated to do that, but it's important. Real quick question. Kathy asked the question, with the new refi, can a 7A be refinanced into a 504?
It's been done a few times. It's not easy to do, and the agency doesn't like to do refinances of their existing other program debt. It can be done. You generally can't. It can actually even be done the reverse too. You could theoretically refinance a 504 with a 7A, but it's probably done on both hands in terms of counting the number of times in a
okay, but it can, and it also that USDA is included in that, et cetera, et cetera. But basically, USDA, you're going to want to piggyback stuff. Sandra says, "Hey, what's a third-party SBA loan, Sandra?" That's the first lien. Please, if we're talking about acronyms or things that people don't know about, please call us on this. I have no issue answering those questions. Third-party SBA loan, who knows where they came up with, but it's the first lien of the project. So that's Katie, real quick, fascinating stats this morning. Anything you want to comment on real quick?
I think probably the one I would like to highlight the most is that what we were finding from the past, about a week and a half of our stats is that it seems as though most lenders, or at least more than half of them, believe they'll be back in the office by the end of the year. However, we are seeing that there's a pretty big split between different people who work in the SBA team. We're seeing more people, more underwriters who are better working at home, who are finding it more difficult to actually work in the office, whereas we're seeing 62% of loan closers say that they are more productive in the office. So that is something just to be aware of and to kind of be watching is I think everybody needs to take note of their productivity and see whether they're more productive at home or in the office and how they can apply the things they've learned from this whole situation to when we do go back to the office or when they are working from home and apply those techniques later on.
I think you stumbled on something very important is that instead of just taking a gross poll, you've broken it down into job descriptions and certain job descriptions. Lance, I assume a service center liquidator, they're going to have different challenges than a loan closer in terms of access to files, attorneys, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Different positions require different levels of access, but I think most positions, I do agree, closers probably would be more productive in the office. Most of your servicing liquidation, as long as they have electronic access to file, probably could do it in the office or remotely. So there's some differences, and I think what Katie's pointing out is you can't just make a blanket application of you're all coming back to the office or you're all staying remote. You need to look at what is best for your organization.
Yeah, very good. I know we're running over. I apologize. Two more things real quick. Ed, this is a question Ed's been, we've been holding over. Have you seen anything on a 10-day grace period to get documents signed once the initial 10-day period expires? Lance, you're shaking.
I haven't seen anything different.
No, I think SBA is following along with what was actually a 20-day period, calendar days. If there was still waiting, lenders were still waiting on things, documentation from the borrowers. So I don't think there's been any changes to that.
Okay, is this an issue?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Mid-America is changing its dates. Now it's going to be in September in Arlington, Texas. Lance, that's in your backyard. Are you going to be going?
I sure hope so. Mid-America is one of my favorites. Had the pleasure of speaking there for years and would love to come back.
And I like it says live as opposed to online or dead. I don't know. Anyway, they do a great job. Please, we'll put all these other questions on the answer desk. Joseph, put up the codes real quick. We have a beta testing on that. There it is. Just use PPP Lender to sign in. Passwords PPP Lender. Don't ask me why we have a space on one and the other. I don't know. Just to make it more confusing, I think that's what we're trying to do. Anyway, that's you have free access to that through the end of the week on that. Hey, I apologize for going over, but just a ton of information. Chris, I appreciate your time. I know you're very, very busy. Thank you so much. Lance, I'm sorry to see you're off the beach.
Yeah, I'm going to be back tomorrow.
You'll be back to the beach tomorrow. And thank you for joining us all today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great day.
Have a great day.